3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Queen Stage. We're here to spotlight the athletes, stories, and action in women's cycling, giving the sport the attention it deserves. And we're going to do so with the quality, depth, and personality the sport demands.
I'm Rosael Torres-Davis.
I'm Betsy Welch.
I'm Anne-Marije Rook.
And I'm Molly Hurford. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Queen Stage Women's Cycling Podcast, where we have been covering the Tour de France Femmes avec, Zwift for the last 9 days, going stage by stage to bring you the racing action and tour excitement. The race may be over, but we still have one final recap episode to cap off our inaugural season of the race coverage coming later in this week. So make sure that you're subscribed wherever you listen to the podcast and leave us a 5-star rating and review. Before we dive in, huge thank you to Ruckus Composites for making the show a reality. Built on a mission to push the boundaries of carbon fiber performance, Ruckus Composites and Aerospace are leaders in engineering, research, repair, and inspection. All right, let's get into it. I'm Molly Hurford. This is Stage 9, and I was sweating bullets in the beginning of this race. I said, this is the most I've poured, and I had tears, I had sweat, I had just a mixture of everything going on this race. So it seemed like at the beginning of the race, FDJ Suez, everyone was kind of out to make Visma Lease Bike work. They were out to make them drop all of their riders, including Pauline Ferrand-Prevot. It seemed like they were in trouble. I was so nervous for PFP. But then she got back on. She sacrificed all of her teammates to get back on. And then it just felt like the sails just deflated for everybody else. What did you all think?
Well, to begin with, it was a very fast beginning of the stage. I mean, it's not easy to catch your GC leader off guard like that. And I'm surprised that they didn't keep the pressure on. But I guess, they did put a significant amount of power there.
Yeah, what was weird about today's stage, I think, is a lot of the GC favorites went into the stage going, okay, we're going for podium now. Kazuya from the get-go said the yellow jersey is no longer in reach. So going into the stage, there was already a little bit of deflation happening. And the fight for her was to get on the podium, as she has for every edition of this race, which is a little disappointing because it started off so hot and I was expecting that something was going to happen today. But then when the GC group was formed, and we'll get in the recap later, but once it was formed, it was kind of like, oh, they're just going to ride to the finish now, and we'll see it play out in the last maybe 10K.
Yeah, so many of the fireworks of this race did not come from who we thought they were going to come from or when we thought they were going to come. I mean, there were certainly fireworks, but they came in, riders that we didn't expect, attacks, and obviously one big firework in the form of
one little firecracker. Do you think perhaps, and we could talk about this later more when we talk about strategy, but do you think that the way it played out, the GC favorites should have tackled the race differently and started making moves earlier on in the week?
I think so, definitely. Is because I was thinking, what could they all waited till the last two days in the mountains? But I wish they had made some moves before, especially exciting riders like Kasia. She's always been so exciting to watch, and then we got this, and she was barely there.
Is that just because of the way racing is playing out these days, or is it because of the course? The fact that we had flatter stages early on and then all mountains. What caused that attitude in the peloton?
I think the stakes are higher. It's probably a lot of things, but I think the stakes are higher now.
I think what's wild to me is, out of all the GC favorites, PFP is really the only one who won a stage, right?
Yeah.
That's wild. And I think those teams are going to be looking back on this. And I think part of it's because the GC was so open. There were so many riders that actually could have potentially won the race, I think, this year compared to past years. And I think next year they're going to have to look at it differently, right? They're going to have to be thinking, okay, I might not actually be the top GC contender. I may not win the GC. So therefore, I should probably be getting some stage wins earlier on.
I mean,
What's funny is we've been saying the field of women's cycling has gotten so deep and it's so competitive. Yet going into this race, all we were looking at were Kasia and Demi, maybe Elisa Longo-Borghini and Marlon Reusser. But when those two dropped out, everyone was like, cool, it's going to be a 2-up battle. When in fact, we should have all looked deeper and seen the real potential there. And I know there were a lot of wild cards and people were like, well, maybe. But no one was saying all out like it's going to be a 5 deep, 6 deep, 7 deep battle. Everyone was just looking at 2 riders, which also caused them to look at themselves like, oh, this is on me. And there was a lot of pressure on them. And I think nowadays, perhaps we're going to see a very different attitude going forward.
I totally agree, Rook, and I'm glad you brought up pressure because I think that is it's a major storyline of this race is that it seems like some of the riders who either weren't under any pressure from themselves or their teams or the public had incredible performances. It's like, what did they have to lose? PFP, in a sense, didn't have that much pressure either. I'm sure she had pressure on herself, but I swear she backtracked from saying, I want to win it this year to I want to win it in 2 to 3 years. But whatever her mental talk was, it worked. And I think we already know that Demi is, incredibly and Kasia and all of these women, of course, they put a lot of pressure on themselves. They are under a microscope. But it appeared to me it was too much this year. And it really impeded their ability to even enjoy the race the way they can, be animators. I mean, I'm just sad we didn't get to see them race because that's how I feel. Is like you said, Rosael, where was Kasia? we love Kasia Niewiadoma, and we didn't get to see that. And so I wonder too if they will all do some reflecting about that. And sometimes, and we've all done events where sometimes you have your best result when you don't give a what.
Yeah, it was very defensive racing, right? It was kind of like traditional, protected GC, play it smart. And here comes PFP and says, you know what the best defense is? Offense. And goes. And I really wanted to see more of that. All the usually the big animators of this race just were completely nowhere to be found. Even a team like Phoenix de Koning, so young, so energetic. They made the race last year. They were nowhere this year.
Yeah. Okay, Rook, let's just recap today's stage so everyone knows what we're talking about before we get into all of the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah, seriously, go watch this stage. Go watch a recap. Obviously, listen to the Queen stage, but you're going to be better off watching it and see how everything played out. Because the beginning of the race was absolute fireworks. FDJ and SD Works decided that today they were going to start with some firepower. They were going to attack, and I think SD Works really felt like an attacking mood today. Wiebes was the first to attack for that team, and then it got brought back. Then FDJ attacked, got brought back. There were counterattacks. Anna van der Breggen must have attacked, I don't know, a dozen times before she finally broke clear. And that's really where the racing took shape today, is when Anna broke clear with about 93 Ks to go, which is a very long time to be solo. But Anna van der Breggen, she's done this before. The old Anna van der Breggen won in this fashion many times. And so she took off solo and grew quite a gap. I think her biggest gap got to be 2 minutes, but she was also 7 minutes down on the GC, more than 7 minutes down on the GC. So they were happy to let her go, and she was clearly seeking a stage win today. That was not a GC race for her. It was just hoping to get the stage win. But then behind her, the GC group was trying to attack each other a little bit, but eventually it formed, and all the usual suspects were riding together. So Demi and Kasia. Demi also had help from Juliette Labou, her teammate, which was super valuable for her. the yellow jersey initially. So the big story early on in the race was that Pauline Ferrand-Prevot and Vilap, they missed the split. The first split that happened early in the race, they missed it. They had to get to the front and get their butts in gear and make sure that Pauline was represented in that GC group of favorites. They managed to do so, and then we started climbing. On the Jouplan is when things really shook out. Gigante was pretty active again, was the first to show her legs today. PFP went with her. They got caught up again by the GC favorites. And then, very sadly, on the descent, Sarah Gigante, just my heart goes out to her. She wasn't able to hang. And so she ends up getting dropped on the descent. And all the GC favorites, and she was sitting in third, I believe, at the time in the virtual jersey. But then she gets dropped and she just cannot get back to that group of GC favorites. And we keep seeing her on TV. They keep panning to her and her gap just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And my heart really went out to her because I really wanted to see what she could do when they would let her go on the final climb. So the GC group is riding. They swoop up Anne van der Breggen. Anne van der Breggen promptly goes backwards in the peloton. And we're left with a GC favorite race. It's just Demi, Kasia, Juliette Lepoux, PFP. Am I forgetting anyone?
Yeah, Dominika Blavarczyk.
Oh, yes, of course.
And
for
Niam
UAE.
Fisher-Black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the race for the rest of the day. They ride together. They make Lepoux do the work for all of them. But they get enough gap that I think it was well over 7 minutes. So they could ride together. They no longer had competitions from behind them. And we get up to the final climb of the day and nothing happens. And this is that surprised me the most. This is where I was expecting at least Kasia and Demi to attack and shake up the podium. For Kasia today was about getting on the podium. So I expected something to happen. And with about 5K to go, PFP just goes on her own. She attacks again. Niamh Fisher-Black is the only one that can kind of hang in for a little bit. But she too eventually has to let PFP go, and PFP solos to another mountaintop victory. She ends up winning the race with 20 seconds. I think the gaps do not tell the true story. They belie how much of a dominant performance this was, but there you have it.
Amazing. I mean, France must be ecstatic.
Yeah, that final attack. I mean, this race, what I love about it is the whole week has been tactically so interesting and so smart, but also then these like individual just moments of greatness and just, you know, powering down on the pedals, right? Between Sarah Gigante's climbing, PFP's climbing. Actually, frankly, this race really came down to being won on the climbs and lost on the descents is really my like TLDR on the race as a whole.
Unless you're Maeva, in which case you did both. You won it on the descent and on the climbs.
100%.
Yeah, I don't remember a tour where the descents had influenced the results so much. I guess was it Tom Dumoulin who had to also take some lessons to be able to win the Giro eventually. I think there was somebody of a big name in the men's side that also had famously bad problems with descending.
I mean, it happens.
Yes, Phil Liggett made sure to give Sarah Gigante some
so thankful for that.
His commentaries.
Listen, here's the thing that's yeah. It's just another skill set, and like some people are really bad at climbing, and other people aren't so good at descending. And she'll get there. She just needs a little coaching in that area. Of
She's
cycling.
24. She's 24.
Yeah.
She has some time. Yeah.
Well, and because she's such an incredible climber, obviously, like she's under the microscope more to be good at everything. And it's pretty incredible that she was second in the GC coming into today. Like, let's give the girl some props. She had she got dropped on the descent, but it doesn't mean she's like less worthy of having an incredible race.
Yeah, she had a wonderful race. And
well, to get dropped on the descent means you had to get to the top of the climb pretty high up in order for that to even be a storyline, right?
Yeah. But so in winning, Pauline Ferrand-Prevot gives France their first Tour de France winner since Bernard Hinault. So that's 40 years since they've had a yellow jersey winner, which is a pretty wild achievement for someone who was a wild card going into this. And as you said, Betsy had a little pressure on her.
Yeah, no, PFP, she's really a master of handling pressure. And I guess she has all the experience, like she's always been the rider to watch in so many disciplines. So she knows a lot about pressure.
She knows how to peak, like phenomenally well. She targets a race and she wins that race.
That's what I was going to say. She's a big goal setter, and she's a big stated goal setter. And that's crazy to me because I'm like the complete opposite. I will maybe have a goal, but I won't tell anyone about it. But if you look at her resume, it's like this was the year she wanted to win 3 titles. This was the year she wanted to win the Olympics. Which is incredible. And it's not to say that those other women like Kasia and Demi didn't also state that they wanted to win this tour too. But yeah, I mean, there's so much that we'll never know, right? About like what is going on for these women and athletes in general. I doubt that it's just like one thing, It's not like one thing goes wrong and then you lose the race. And I think we're going to probably learn a lot more in the weeks to come about each individual rider's experience. What do you think, Rosael?
No, I just have a question maybe for Rook, because Demi Vollering was an FDJ were at an advantage with Julia Labou in that group. But then did they use Labou at their best capability?
No. I think Labou ended up doing the work for everyone. Like, they had such a big gap. Labou could have either sit up and force other people to help her out, or they just should have sent her on a flyer. I mean, granted, Labou was off the back to the front, off the back to the front, off the back to the front. That poor woman was, like, putting her heart and soul into this race working for Demi. So I'm not sure if she would have had the legs to attack, but you had very little to lose. Send her up the road. See if other people will chase her. It was, especially in the long drag to like the final 10K, it was just Labou doing all the work at the front. And there, I would have maybe liked to have seen a little bit of an attack or maybe forcing other riders' hands a little earlier. Like, you knew an attack was going to come on the final climb. It had to come. So draw it out early.
No, yeah, it was just disappointing. I'm just confused because I don't know. Obviously, everybody was at their limit, but I kind of question it. And maybe that's this borderline disrespectful or maybe it's just that Pauline was at such a level that they made everybody else look a little bit like amateurs. And I'm just saying that because of the contrast was so stark. I know that's not true. But yeah, I just feel like, did they give it absolutely everything they had in one of the best editions of the Tour de France Femmes we've seen?
I mean, physically, they absolutely did. I heard from every rider that they set their best power numbers yesterday, that they were completely spent. Tactically, even though it was a highly tactical race this year, there are some things to go back and revisit.
Anyone else just really want to know what PFP does for like her manifestation practices? Now I'm just like really thinking about this goal setting. I can't get it out of my head. Like, does she have vision boards?
You got to understand, though, that she's also in a very privileged position because her team was okay with her being gone for 2 months.
Yeah.
If this is your job, right, you're allowed to be gone for 2 months to focus just on yourself and to get this result. Not everyone has or is at the liberty to do that. They had to continue racing throughout those 2 months. So she's in a very fortunate position in that way as well, that she was allowed to disappear for 2 months, focus solely on this climb.
What if
such a good point?
What if mountain bikers are just better?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. I've long said that they are skillful and they have engines and they can sprint, and they've long been underrated for how physically fit they are.
Exactly. And
yeah,
I really
definitely.
think, I know we've been saying that, Pauline has been, it's not like she never rode on the road. She did, but she has not been racing on the road for a very long time. She has been focused on cross-country mountain biking, which are hour-and-a-half races that are basically time trials. And yeah, I think it's worth talking about. And I think we did get a question of like, why aren't World Tour teams watching these World Cups and keeping their eyes on some of these women? to pull the
Well, Phoenix the Koenig is.
Lidl Trek,
totally.
too.
That whole team is cyclocross and mountain bike riders.
Yeah, so let's let us not forget that the mountain bikers can be really good on the road.
So if you have any aspirations in being the next Tour de France rider, take up mountain biking.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think part of that is, the women who've been on the road for decades even, or have just only ever been on the road, they just have such a kind of skill set of like road racing tactics. This is what racing on the road is like. And then someone like PFP comes in with just this different lens. And it's just like, oh yeah, I can just ride up the road myself here. If you guys aren't going to go, I guess I can just go. Cool. I would have done this in a mountain bike race, so I guess I'll just try it here. Or Puck, just like, I'm just going to
I said that since day one, right? Like in that first sprint where she was like, screw these tactics, whoosh,
Right.
and went up the road. And she continued to do that in 2 more stages.
And again, like something new, something fresh. Obviously, you can't just show up and be like, new race, I'm going to win it. But taking that time away, what did that do for her approach to road racing and her attitude towards it? Again, like some of these other women didn't look like they were having, I hate to say fun because I know it's not fun, but like they didn't look like they were having fun. There was no joy, not even any like, this is my job and I'm really good at it. Like the emotion was at times like, I mean, obviously it was tense, but it was like they looked kind of like scared sometimes. It was just interesting to see and wonder about, again, that like what was going on mentally for a lot of these women. And Pauline didn't look to be sort of gripped like that. Like, yeah, she was gripped physically, but she didn't seem gripped in her head.
Yeah, I also love how, because I've seen her, or we've seen her come back to the sport, different sports in various times, like when she's returned to cyclocross and also won races and done really well. When she did the first UCI Gravel World Championship, she took that jersey immediately. I just love how she gives herself a goal and she wastes no time just to check if her legs are good or anything. She's like, I'm going to find out right now if I can make this work and this discipline that I've been away from. And she did that in Paris-Roubaix. She did that at Gravel Worlds. And yeah, she keeps doing it now on the road and the Tour de France Femmes.
The question is, will she keep racing?
I knew you were going to say that.
I know.
Yeah, we were joking on the Slack about if we were going to get a retirement announcement as she crossed the line, because she did say this was the last jersey she needed. She's got the yellow in her closet now. What's next? What's left?
I wonder if we left it up to the peloton to a vote, what would people in the peloton
Everyone's like,
vote?
go retire.
We made you a cake.
Well, the World Championships are still ahead. So maybe she'll use this fitness to just get another rainbow jersey.
Or maybe she needs to get an Olympic road medal. She doesn't have that,
You just
right?
gave her 3 more years of racing?
Yeah. Come to LA, Pauline. Come win the road race in
that'd be
2028.
amazing.
Or track, I guess. Like, she doesn't have any track stuff, so
Yeah.
I could see her in a points race.
for sure.
Can we give the woman some rest?
Maybe DH. Let's see her on the downhill course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
Rampage? Why not?
Love it for her. We should talk about all of the various jerseys now that they're wrapped. Betsy, do you want to lead us off? I cannot believe the difference that 2 days have made in the GC. If you look at the times, right? Like on Friday, we were like, there's a minute between, first and like 20th. And now, bigger spread.
Yeah. I mean, should we just start with the GC? Because last year, let's be reminded that there was a 4-second separation between first and second place. This year, Demi Vollering was second to Pauline Ferrand-Prevot by 3 minutes and 42 seconds. So pretty different race this year. Kasia was third. This is Kasia's third, right, at this race, I believe. She won last year and was third the first 2 editions. In fourth, this one's kind of surprising, don't you guys think? Dominika Ledarczyk of UAE Team ADQ, a Polish rider. Can we just interrupt and say, like, how did that happen? How does someone like that get to 4th overall?
That was their goal, though. UAE from the, everyone's looking at Mavis Guibin.
Right.
And she said, she's like, we're not going to go for the QM jersey. We're going to go all in on Dominica. And so that was their goal. And then we saw Guibin attack yesterday, and that was all in favor of Dominica. But yeah, she kind of snuck in there. I think everyone was looking at each other and forgot that, there's a potential another outlier that could compete here.
Yeah, I'm looking at just like stage by stage the results, and she just steadily just kept climbing little by little. And once the mountains arrived, and she was able to take like 3, 4, 5 places.
Yeah, and I think once Alyssa Longo Borghini dropped out, everyone was kind of we wrote off UAE as just, no GC contenders whatsoever. And really, it was probably almost the best thing that could have happened to them, because not only did they get Mavis Guibin with the 2 stage wins, they got this 4th place out of, seemingly nowhere.
Well, and it didn't help that Kerbal just suffered some unfortunate events
that's
today.
true. Right, we didn't talk about that. How did that crash happen?
There must have been something on the road. So there was a corner, and Kerbal, being a bomber descender, surprisingly wiped out. So did the rider right behind her. But I didn't actually see them touch wheels. So I was wondering if there was something on the road, because it was Kerbal, her teammate, and Kazi Niewiadoma who all hit the deck at the same time around the same corner. And that saw Kerbal off the main group.
Yeah, well, kudos to Niamh Fisher-Black of Little Trek. She got 5th in the general classification. That's really good of her.
Yeah, another team that we didn't expect to see in there at all.
Also very young, 24 years old.
Yeah.
Well, they started off today with Lucinda Brandt throwing the first or the second attack of the day.
Yeah.
Just to get back to that GC overall top 10, which is because it's the last day, I'm going to go 10 deep. But Niamh Fisher-Black in 5th, young Kiwi, and also a great climber, and also I think we're only just beginning to see what Niamh can do in these Grand Tours. Sarah Gigante, who we've talked about, ended up 6th today, but big mega kudos to Sarah. I think she had a great tour. I have to say, I was even a little skeptical, would she be recovered from the Giro? And she clearly proved that she was. And then in 7th, Juliette Labou, who we also talked about, who had a really hard day, ending up in 7th, Cédrine Kerbal in 8th, Paulina Royackers in 9th, and Evita Music in 10th. So that 4 French women top 10 stayed that we saw yesterday, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know, what do you guys think? Overall, that top 10 is not surprising, given what we were thinking going into the race. No big necessarily upsets. It's just the way in which it played out, and the ultimate time gaps, I think, were the surprising piece.
As I said before, the results really don't tell the full story.
Yeah.
They belie just how much of a dominant force Visma Leasebike and Pauline Ferrand-Prevot really were. I also want to give a shout out to AG Sodal. They rode a very smart tour. They had yellow, and the yellow jersey decided to sacrifice herself in favor of a potential overall win with the climber, Sarah Gigante. It didn't work out for them, obviously, but they played a really smart game, and they were definitely a team that announced itself as being a main competitor going forward.
I'm glad you said that too, because you reminded me. I mean, there's so many riders that I want to shout out for various reasons, but Kim LaCourt deserves a mention here for so many reasons. She ended up in, it looks like, 16th overall, but Kim was a topic of conversation every day of the race, and what she, I guess, did for the country of Mauritius and the continent of Africa cannot be understated, and we will be seeing Kim for many years to come, I think.
For sure. I also want to shout out on the note of like shouting out kind of people that are just outside the top 10, Barbara Malcotti of Human Powered Health. And I just wanted to point that out because, I mean, Human Powered Health is one of like the smaller teams, but we still saw Ruth Edwards. Was she second or third on that one stage? And then now
She was third. Yes.
yeah. And Barbara moving into 13th, like they must be really psyched with that result as a team that doesn't have the, isn't the huge powerhouse. Like, I think they're the first team on that list that stands out as like, oh, I'm surprised they're up that high.
Should I do the other jerseys real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
The young rider jersey overall goes to Ninka Vinka. Woohoo! Right?
Yeah, picnic.
Who Molly
personnel.
is going to be writing a children's story about.
I'm like, I need to
Ninka
contact
Vinka from
her and be
team-
like, can you please let me...
I mean,
Use your name.
Yeah.
you can use the top 3 in the youth classification as characters because they all have
do.
great names, like Julie Bego, Titia Rio, and Ninka Vinka.
The Adventures of, yeah.
Amazing. Love it. Yeah.
Adventures of the Young Riders. There you go. For the points jersey, the green jersey goes to Lorena Wiebes, who was in green for 7 of the 9 days. And also, shout out, I guess, because she's just so freaking good at what she does. But Voss was, hung in there behind Wiebes and came in second in the points, and Demi was third. Queen of the Mountain goes to Elise Chabet, who was in the polka dots the whole tour, I believe. And
She was.
yeah. And held on and didn't let go and had a really solid race. Should we talk about the team winner?
Sure.
And
We did get a question about that today.
Well-
so that's
great, because
Yeah.
I also have a question. So I'm looking at the results here. FDJ Suez wins the team competition. Can somebody explain, like, how does that work and why they won?
Yeah, so like any other classification in the tour, the best or the total time of the 3 best riders of any team is calculated, and the team with the lowest amount of time wins that classification. They don't have jerseys like the other classifications, but instead they get a different color bib, so that every rider on that team will have a different bib that makes them stand out from the rest of the peloton.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question about the youth classification? So in the men's Tour de France, it's the U26, so it's 26 and under. Do you think that with the depth of the women's peloton these days, it should go up as well? Because then we would have had Sarah Gigante in the white jersey.
Which I think we all would have loved. So I'm like, yes, we should, even if I wouldn't get to say Ninka Vinka several times over the course of this week.
It's weird that it's 23 for the women and 26 for the men. Like, I wonder what the calculus was there.
Wasn't there something weird where it was the men's ages were actually getting too low? Like they were bringing in riders almost too young. So they tried to raise it so that the average age of the team would go up or something like that.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because I was thinking to myself, in the women's peloton, we typically have older riders. So the youth classification is a younger number. There's only 11 riders on the youth classification results. Does that mean only 11 riders under 23 finish the race?
It seems like it. I mean, it would make sense to raise it a bit, because I was just looking at the ages of everybody in the top 10. And yeah, a lot of them are 24 to 29 years old, except, Pauline is 33, Demi's 29, Kasia is 30, I think. But yeah, everybody else was like 24, 26, 28.
Do we feel like this is like a sexist, like, oh, once women are 25, they're over the hill kind of situation?
I'm curious, like, why of all things, I mean, you'd hope they have a well thought out reason for this, but
Yeah, I'm sure they'd love to come on and answer.
maybe we could ask Phil. Maybe we could ask Phil Liggett. Sorry, I'm so mean.
I'm sure
but
he'd have a great answer.
It was frustrating.
Well, and let's...
I'm just gonna
I'm
say,
sure.
like, can we just really quickly, like, the weekend, with the commentating on Peacock in the US was a bit of a letdown. It really changed the sort of tenor of the commentate. Yeah, I mean, no doubt Phil is iconic and a legend, but like that doesn't mean he has to commentate the Tour de France Femmes. And if he's going to, he needs to learn who the riders are, and he needs to watch the rest of the race also. He can't just like show up and be like, oh, the weekend. He kept just referring to the weekend. And I was like, dude, it's been going on for 7 days, and they were important to the racing as well.
Yeah. No, and I do think TV commentators are so important to making the sport attractive. You know, like there's not a lot of people out there that will watch. Like we used to watch women's cycling with no commentating before, like on the sketchy ass website. Only hardcore fans will do that.
Yeah.
Most people, like cycling is a complicated sport, and the jerseys sometimes are not the friendliest for like, you know, identifying riders and this and that, and everybody looks kind of the same. So you need really good commentators.
It's also the one thing we got more questions and comments about us here at the podcast than any other topic. People wanted to know why they switched the commentators, and they had a lot of questions about what was said during the races as well.
Yeah, there was some, I mean, frankly, there were some inaccuracies. We were doing some fact checking, and I think the other thing too with women's cycling is there's a lot of new fans. So Phil doesn't matter. I mean, his legacy doesn't matter to a new fan, and B, you can't be saying inaccurate things. That doesn't help.
Do your job.
Grow the sport and grow fandom. Yeah.
I think we can say he's a legend in men's cycling as well. Like he has just never been like a super contender or fan or advocate of women's cycling. And the two are markedly different.
All right. Should we move on to my highlight of the race?
Sorry.
No, it's all right. It has to be said, and I'm sure a lot of listeners will
Yeah,
feel
maybe
the
let us
same
know
way.
if you want us to do like a Discord channel next season where we actually just do like a separate stream of commentary for the race.
Yeah, a place to vent. You can vent with us. No, I just want to reiterate how boss it is to win a stage with the yellow jersey. I'm so glad that Pauline did not just take an easy day. She did not have the best start to the race, and she was able to fix that. She was strong to out, and she attacked in the yellow jersey. And it's a huge day for France. We saw that she got, when she was, after she gave her interview, she got a call from President Macron and the President of France. How boss is that? I mean, and also just the fact that I love it when it's women's cycling who's saving cycling for France, at the competitive level. Yes, they own this big event, but 40 years since her last Tour de France winner was French.
Yeah, it's big. And today, even in France, the newsstands, it was Pauline's face all over on the cover of the newspapers of L'Equipe, and that's just beautiful to see in a whole country get behind. And I will credit where credit is due. They have been avid fans and viewers of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. They've been tuning in with larger numbers than any other country, and to them it seems to matter very little if it's a male or female rider. They're there to support either way.
As long as they're French.
Amazing.
As long as they're French, of course.
Yeah, I mean, just fantastic. And again, Pauline was great because she didn't just have the legs. She had that instinctual know when to attack, know which moves to cover. And yeah, for someone who's kind of newer to or reintroduced to road racing pretty recently, I would say that was super impressive to me. That final attack, just chef's kiss perfection.
She did say that was the most nerve-wracking part, was the team dynamics and responding and choosing what to respond to today. But she played it extremely well.
Yeah, and from other reporters and staff, we've heard that she's been so professional, in the behind-the-scene parts and all that. Like, she's just, she's an icon. She's an icon to me.
Okay, speaking of icons, queen of the stage, you know what? I'm going to give it to Anna van der Breggen. how great was that solo attack? I mean, we've talked about wanting to see her out front all week, just this legend returning to the race. And we knew it was going to be hard to hold a 93-kilometer solo attack. But man, did she try. And it was so impressive and just so great to give her some of like the coverage and kudos that she deserves for that hour that she was out front, maybe more.
Yeah, I'm just mad nobody went with her because her team SD work set her up really well with Kopecky, and like for in the beginning of the coverage, they had a breakaway of the four of them. And why didn't Maeve Squeeben join?
I would have loved that.
Or somebody else, because I wonder if she had been caught like a lot later, if that would have made the racing more exciting. If they had, maybe we had seen more satellite riders or other riders who are really good climbers trying to go for a loss, URA, to get a stage win.
Yeah, SD Works can be very pleased with themselves today. Like, sure, did they have the tour that they were hoping for? No, but they really gave it everything today. They were so aggressive, and this is all they could have asked for today. And I don't think they'll be disappointed with their performance.
Yeah, you're right. I would have loved to see a couple people go with her and just try to hold it off. And yeah, we did see Mavis Squibben in there in the mix kind of earlier on in the race, which again, very exciting to see. I think she's kind of my all-star for the race, although we're going to do a whole recap episode coming later this week, so stay tuned for that. Also honorable mention for the stage, Niamh Fisher-Black. Again, we did not see much from Lidl Trek all week. We were kind of wondering what was going on with them, where they were. And then the last two stages, she was just like, all right, I guess I'm going to go. And I really wish she'd been able to hold on to PFP's wheel there when PFP made that attack with 6.5K to go. She was so close. She almost had it and then just couldn't do it.
Yeah, do we think she's a GC rider now? Because like to hang on with Demi Vollering and with Oma and PFP, wow.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I just wonder if she hadn't had that. Remember, she had that issue in another stage where she had to change bikes and lost a bunch of time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really impressed because she's always been in my radar, but not like this.
I just want to see a different makeup of stages in a future Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. Like this whole building up to the mountains. Did it deliver an exciting race? Sure, yeah, absolutely. It was exciting. I was never truly bored. I enjoyed watching every day. But it would be nice to see one mountain stage early on, and then a couple more flat ones or more rolling ones, and then another mountain stage. Like, I don't mind the tour traditionally ending in the mountains as it always does. But I think for the GC, we would have seen it maybe a little bit more aggression earlier on if there had been a more significant mountain stage earlier on in the race.
I also would have loved a Champs-Elysees finish for this one, because can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like, we've been saying fireworks on the stage as like a metaphor, but I think had they gotten to have that, there would have been literal fireworks just going off as PFP came in for that win.
Yeah, I mean, if I had known they were going to race like that, those last 30 kilometers or whatever, I would have preferred to see a sprint stage won by Weebus on the Champs-Elysees, but can you do? Sometimes that also can get boring, so.
For sure. Okay. That was Queen of the Stage. Who was Queen of the Tour? Rook, what are your thoughts?
It's so hard not to vote for Pauline Ferrand-Prevot. I just want to give it to her because, yeah, she was the wild card. She was my heart pick. I think she was everyone's heart pick here. And she delivered 2 years ahead of schedule, her own schedule anyway. And yeah, for me, she is the absolute queen of the tour.
Yeah, I think that might be a unanimous. Who else could you say?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of other honorable queens of the tour, but she's head and shoulders.
You know what else? We have a couple of questions and thoughts about like the rider respect conversation that was happening throughout this tour. And you know what? She was never in it, right? Like she never played into that discussion. She really just kind of kept it all like very calm, very low key. She was never accused of doing anything like disrespectful or shoving another rider or doing anything weird, nor did she engage in the conversation about it. She just stayed focused on the race itself. And
do you think, too, like part of Pauline's ability to sort of remain, I don't know, in another world, really, is that like most of these women have never raced against her, you know, like.
Yeah. Well, it's just the writer she is. You know, we've been following her all these years. She always seems to be in isolation somewhere. Like, she does a lot of her training by herself or with a partner. She only sees teammates now because she has a road team and she sees them in training camp and all that. And then, like, ahead of a race like the Tour de France Femmes, she's just up in the mountains, like not even like racing. And it's so rare for racers at that level not to have a few races to show everybody what their legs are like. Like, she didn't do any of that. It was just like all very demure, very hush hush, and let's just take everybody by surprise. It's brilliant.
And no one created any controversy around her either. You know, it wasn't like no one pitted her against anyone. It wasn't like Kasia and Demi or Demi and Annemiek. There was no Pauline and so she just got to like exist outside of all that noise, which is, I think it's way more important than we give it credit for.
Shout out also to the team. Like Visma Leasebike, they did a really good tour with having Marianne in the jerseys early on. That took the pressure off Pauline as well. She just had to make sure she didn't lose any time in DC. All the attention, all the fanfare was focused on Marianne Vos, and they knew that Pauline was going to get her chance in the mountains. And today, too, her team was at the front doing the work when they missed out on that break. They quickly recovered. They put in the work. They got it to the front. Like, that team is a very young team, but they're doing a phenomenal job this year. Like, they've definitely emerged, I thought, especially in the early stages, as just such a composed and cohesive unit.
okay, should we move on to our no dumb questions?
Sure. What were they? I guess I got a question about somebody noticing how much more respectful the fans on the roads of this Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift were, and why is it that we don't see that respect in men's cycling? And I don't know, that's really it's an interesting observation, but it's hard to answer. The only thing I would say is that because maybe the women's cycling is still, like, cycling overall is very niche, but women's cycling is even more niche. And I think once we see the sport explode a little bit, we may see those fans that don't know much about etiquette and they're just there for maybe to see crashes or that kind of thing. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of when the Red Hook crit in Brooklyn, New York, when it really became famous. Because I lived there at the time and I would go to every edition. And at the beginning, it was just like pure cycling fans. But once like it started becoming like world famous, we started to see all these people that really did not care very much about the sport, who just came to like scream, drink beer, throw stuff to the road. Like, I don't know, I feel like maybe it has to do with the popularity maybe of the event. What do y'all think?
I think this is the one time where maybe sexism plays in our favor. You don't touch women. You don't throw a beer at women. There's just culturally some things that you don't do, shouldn't do. And in this case, that works in our favor. Like, you don't see people spitting at female riders, and that happens, unfortunately, to male riders. No one's throwing their beer into riders' faces. And that's, I guess that for once, this cultural difference works in our favor.
At least in Europe.
And for now, right? But also we didn't see any opiomi signs, like taking riders down. But I would say not yet. But in a way, that's also why I enjoy the sport at the size that it is, because it feels very like it's at reach of people. And we still maybe get to enjoy to have the real fans that are there for the right reasons.
Yeah, it's true. Every time I hear from a North American person who's gone over, I'm seeing, friends and people I know on Instagram who are over there. It seems like it's still just very possible to be quite involved with the race, right? Like to be at different parts of the race and not have it be, I had to camp on this mountaintop for 6 days in order to see them go by once. It seems like every day they get to actually see some of the racing action, which is very cool.
Yeah. Well, what's the other
Well,
question?
we should also drop in that when we talk about fan respect, we are primarily talking about the in real life fan respect. The virtual is a
Good
little
point.
bit iffier.
Yeah, there's no such cultural boundaries. when it comes
Exactly.
to people behind keyboards. Hey, let's remember these are writers, and they're doing their absolute best. And just because you're a male on the internet, you're no better than these riders. You don't know anything more about bike positioning, about bike handling, about bike fits. Like, come on, give these riders a break.
Descending.
Yeah. Like Sarah Gigante did an interview yesterday, and that just broke my heart. She was talking about how much hate she gets on social media about her lacking descending skills, and it really upset her. And sure, athletes at that caliber maybe shouldn't be reading social media because it's not a happy place, but still, it's also just a reminder to be respectful out there. People are noticing these comments, and she's already plenty in her head about that. We don't have to help her.
100%. Okay, and then our other question was, is there still a time cut on the final stage of the tour? I like this question.
There is. There's a time cut, just like any other stage. Riders still have to make it within a certain percentage of the winner's time, and that's a tall order for a lot of these riders, especially on top of a mountain. And that is, one could potentially see still something shake out, if a contender were to have an issue, the same rules apply as any other stage. But yeah, today that was not a problem for any of the jersey wearers. But I have seen that be a real challenge for riders in the past. In fact, on the first Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, Marianne Vos afterwards was like, whew, I wasn't sure if I was going to make the time cut there. Got a little nervous. But yeah, long story short, there is still a time cut.
Yes, and it looks like everyone made it in today. There were 2 DNFs, but everyone else made the time cut. Also a couple of DNSs, so only 117 finishers total out of, was it 156 starters? Which actually, I mean, honestly, that's probably pretty on par with the men's attrition rate. So for the fact that we were talking so much about it, it was such a topic of discussion at the beginning, honestly, it really didn't end up being quite as bad as we thought it was.
Not at all. And again, this is because the teams are so much smaller to begin with, and they need every rider for every stage. So they don't just let a sprinter go home because they're done with the sprinting stages. They definitely need them later on in the race.
Did you guys think that everyone looked totally worked over and exhausted and just done today? The commentators were, I think, mentioning that quite a few times, and yes, of course, 9 days of racing, but I only bring it up because to talk about the question of rest days, of a longer Tour de France Femme. Yeah, did you guys think the peloton looked particularly haggard?
I mean, yesterday,
on social
for sure.
media, on social media, I think even beyond yesterday, the impression that I had was that, yes, there's a lot of, we don't get to hear the stories of the riders who are finishing last and all that. And it seems that it was a very hard attritional tour. And yeah, I think again, it's yes, they should explore whether the tour should stay this size or what, but I think they should obviously talk to the riders that did the tour to see what would make it more interesting. Yeah.
Well, the longer the race, there's more chance of having a rest day in there, obviously.
Yeah.
I want to say about yesterday's finish, everyone looked completely haggard. And
how do you not?
We saw Chloe Daggard coming in with 11 seconds to spare, gave it her all just to make the time cut. It was a good example of a worker bee and what it takes to be a worker in the Tour de France Femmes and how much work it is for you to actually make the time cut. But everyone looked tired except for Mavi Garcia. She was smiling and she said, I had a lot of fun out there today. And that to me is the sign of a pure climber, someone who enjoys a grueling mountain like that.
Yeah.
Love that for her. I think it also is worth mentioning, we talked earlier, I think probably episode 1, where we were talking about the men's tour, 21 stages. They don't get a rest day. They didn't get a rest day till after 10 days this year. And so you could see this and be like, oh, so the women don't need a rest day after 9 days. Like the men got 10. But the men knew they had 11 stages after that 10 days. So that it's a completely different thing. This is 9 stages where the last 2 stages were all out. Whereas the men's 9th and 10th stages were kind of chill because it was still they still had plenty of time. So I would love to actually see a rest day in there, especially if they go up to 10 days. I think at that point you need to have a rest day somewhere in there. It's just not going to be great racing otherwise.
Yeah. Also, a rest day can add, I saw just another element, because especially an element of surprise, because everybody recovers very differently after a rest day.
That's what I was thinking too. And a rest day, is kind of a reset. Again, I felt like we kept seeing people like sinking deeper into the depth of despair, and that perhaps if there had been a rest day, a reset day, and Rook, like you were saying, if maybe the mountains had been interspersed throughout the stages instead of at the end, then we could have seen kind of people get it back together, and maybe some more animation from the people who we didn't see much from. So I think there is a lot to play with in terms of the length of the race, how the stages are organized. Throw a time trial back in there. I think we talked about this on our preview. We all wanted a time trial. I'm sure there's a lot of women in that race who would have loved a time trial. So it'll be curious to see how ASO continues to evolve that part of things. And like you said, Rosael, to hear what the riders have to say about this particular course.
Okay, well, I think we should wrap up there. That's kind of our teaser for the recap episode that is coming later this week, which means you really need to make sure that you are subscribed so you do not miss when we drop the recap episode. And in the meantime, leave us a 5-star rating and review. We can do one last no dumb question, so also hit us up with any dumb or not dumb follow-up questions from the tour as a whole. We're queenstage.cc on Instagram. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. And yeah, we'll catch you for the recap episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in and for all of the love you've given us on social, on Spotify, on iTunes, everywhere you listen. It's been a really fun week. And I'll say thank you three, because this has been the most fun I've gotten to have talking about women's cycling. So.
Same. Thank you.
Thanks for spending the tour with us, everyone.